rest of the world. You've tuned in to the Mac City Morning Show. I am your host, Elliot Pierre, and we're going to start this episode off the same way we start every episode off, with a moment of gratitude. I know that you could be doing a million other things with your time, and the fact that you spend it with us truly does mean the world to me. So thank you. On that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
How's she cutting me, loves? You're listening to the Mac City Morning Show.
Hey everybody, Keith Simpson here from Norrell Toyota. Just a quick chat about the wonderful community we live in here. As you guys know, we support the Oil Barons. We've joined the drive-in movie theater. We're involved in the marathon here in Fort McMurray, and make sure we're taking care of the kids and all the local businesses, all the local charities, and all the local foundations, guys. That's what makes this community such an amazing place to live.
And we are back. Big shout out to Norrell Toyota, our title sponsor for today's episode. We really do appreciate your ongoing support. Now, as everybody knows at home, I do not introduce my guests because they can do a better job of that than myself. So, sir, can you please tell everybody at home who you are and what you're about?
Sure. My name is Thomas Usher. I'm the director of the Piano Theater's current production of Anne of Green Gables.
Okay. And so, director, what does that mean? What does that position entail?
That's a really good question. I guess in an ideal world, we're a collaborative team, so the entire artistic team gets together to try to, again, bring to life a piece of dramatic literature. In this case, a musical, a version of Lucy Maud Montgomery's famous story, Anne of Green Gables. So as director, I'm meant to be one of the collaborators who are trying to see if we can put all the pieces together to help the actors uncover some of the nuances of their character, to help tell the story in a very cohesive way, and to work with my collaborators, my team, to fashion that in a way which is going to engage the audience's imagination.
That's so cool. So, like, I think, like, as every Canadian would know, Anne of Green Gables, we've seen the story, we've heard it a bunch of times. I have never, ever heard about it as a musical.
Well, there you go. Actually, this particular version of the musical, which was written by Don Herron and Nicholas Campbell, I think it was, came out in about 1965, 66, just before Confederation, the celebration of.
Right.
And it has been running continuously every summer since then.
Yeah.
It is the world's record holder for the longest continuing running summer musical.
That's amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's
amazing.
amazing.
So they do it in Charlottetown every year.
Yeah.
They had to break that cycle during COVID for obvious reasons.
Of course, yeah.
But I think they're planning to bring it back next year with a sort of
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Have you ever been to PI?
I have.
Yeah? Tell me about that.
Beautiful island. If you haven't had a chance to go visit the rest of your country, go see it.
Yeah.
It is as idyllic as anything you might have pictured from if you've seen the television versions of Anne of Green Gables.
That's right.
It's a gorgeous setting. The people are warm and friendly.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere as an island is very unique as well. It's very much a community.
Yeah. So speaking about different places, we spoke a little bit before. You spent some time here in Fort McMurray back in the day.
I did.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that and what brought you here and how you got out here back then.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking. Yeah, I came up in about 1988, 89 to work with Piano Theater at the time, with George Cottonell and Roberts, who's still there.
Yeah.
Doing a production of Baby for the summer. It was a musical, and then was hired back to do the Black Bonspiel of Willie McCrimmon on the stage, which is a famous W.O. Mitchell piece, all about curling on stage, which is very cool.
Yeah,
and one person selling his soul to the devil in order to win the McDonald Briar. Had a great time.
I can see somebody doing that.
Yeah.
I was hired back to work with the Visual and Performing Arts program, which began in 1990.
Okay.
And I stayed with them teaching for 4 years before I moved on to Southern Alberta.
Okay. So where do you come from originally?
Born and raised in Edmonton.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Presently living in Red Deer in central Alberta, but I work around the province.
What city to grow up and see change so dramatically? Like me and Tanner, we're born here in Fort McMurray, and so we've seen a dramatic change over the years. But Edmonton is on another level. Like my in-laws live out in like the Ellerslie area.
Oh yeah.
And I remember when I was going to school in Edmonton, I had a friend who got married at the rugby field out there.
Yep.
And there was like not like I remember him. We're driving out there, being like, "Where the hell is this guy getting married?" And now you see Ellerslie, Summerside, just like it is it's tremendous growth in Edmonton.
Oh, totally, and Calgary, of course, as well.
Yeah,
But you know, I've been away from McMurray for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's been tremendous growth here as well.
Yeah.
The population when I was here was 35,000. So,
Right.
You know, it's a major change.
Yeah. So what part of Edmonton did you grow up in?
In the West End, down in the area near Valley View, near the zoo area.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Very nice spot. So I've got to ask and jump back to like what you're doing is directing.
Sure.
I have a concept of what that means, but I don't completely understand, like, how does the relationship between the director and the actor and like the stage hands and everything, like, you are definitely like the maestro putting it all together, but like, how do you get what you want out of these actors? Because it's human beings you're talking to. So
yeah.
like, how does a director work and try to get like the maximum kind of capacity out of the people that he's surrounded by?
That's a really good question, Elliot, and there's many different approaches to it. Some
Yeah.
are much more hands-on.
Right.
You'll see a lot of that in film. Move here, stand here, say this, do this, mimic what I'm doing.
Right.
But on stage, we tend to be more collaborative. We want to.
Okay.
It's the actors who are on stage ultimately.
Right.
It's not me.
Right.
They're the ones who are responsible for showing up every day and delivering the goods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's trying to help them make choices which we on the outside can see are stronger ones along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, oh, that's a really good idea. Or have you thought about going further this direction? So they can take them, the input you give them, and try to find some nuance there.
Right.
Your analogy about being a conductor on the outside is apt.
Yeah.
In many ways, as a conductor for an orchestra, a conductor is there setting the rhythm, the tempo, bringing up the nuances in terms of dynamics back and forth,
Right.
is how they work with that collaborative group of artists, of musicians.
Right.
But any one musician by themselves cannot sort of do the symphony. They have to sort of have a
That's right.
conductor along the way. So
That's
that is an apt analogy. We use that sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, my second lead on or add on to that question is like with a movie.
Yep.
You're able to shoot scenes.
Yep.
You're able to edit it, and then you're like, okay, I don't like it. I'm gonna go back.
Right.
You know. And so with a play, you guys have weeks, months, potentially even a year to prepare for like an act. But then as soon as like day one hits and you get to watch it, you're like, oh man, that joke didn't land like how it did. Oh, that note wasn't. So you can tweak it for the next show. So it's always changing from night to night. Is that something that like happens often where like you would, or have you dealt with it where you put out a product on night one, you're like, oh crap, this is not what I thought. Guys, we got to do a lot of work in the next 24 hours? Or with the process, do you kind of like get to that point from night one and then just kind of build on it from there?
Hey, that's a really interesting question as well. Both answers are true.
Okay.
Depending on the length of the run that you have, you may have some flexibility to go back and retweak things or rework scenes or find more depth and interaction.
Right.
Hopefully, you're always working for the best product you can.
Yeah.
In a shorter run, very often you get to a certain point in rehearsal, and that's all you have time for. And
Right.
what's on the stage is what's on the stage.
Right.
Hopefully, throughout the process as you go along, there's a sense of confidence being built up, and that can be challenged by a variety of things.
Yeah.
Least of which is we were hit by bits of illness along the way, so that puts a hole in your rehearsal period.
100%.
But we know that your show opens on this day at this time,
Yeah.
and once the actors are on stage, they're on their own.
Yeah.
You're right. On film, it's different. You can reshoot that scene over and over and over and over and over
Right.
until you finally get it,
That's right.
and then you put it away.
That's
You move
right.
on to the next one. They don't have to remember that one anymore.
Right.
On the stage, they have to remember everything from the very first line to the last line, and it's fresh every night.
That's right.
Which is why live theater is so exciting.
Yeah,
right?
it really is.
It's like this interview right now.
Yeah.
It's spontaneous. It's meant to feel that way as much as it possibly can.
That's right. So you nailed on something that sparked another idea for me or another question in regards to when people get ill. Like you've always heard about, oh, I have my understudy behind. Does every role have an understudy or is it just primary roles? And can an understudy be learning the lines from more than one person?
Hey, great question again. Understudies aren't used so much anymore.
Okay, really?
Because of just the availability of cast members at our community shows or budgets. If you're on Broadway or if you're in the West End, where the business is the business, you have to put bums in seats to pay for the production.
Yeah.
Then yes, they'll hire the understudy to go along all the way.
Okay.
Stratford Festival, which runs for 6 months, yes, they'll have understudies because if someone gets sick partway through, they need to have someone else step into it.
Right.
But again, on a shorter production scale like this, it's unlikely to have that happen.
Okay.
COVID hit us all in many different ways.
Yeah.
And that uncertainty about who was going to be available at certain times or whether we had to mask for certain productions, etc.
That's right.
Made us rethink a lot of it.
Yeah.
But again, we don't use understudies as much as you might think.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah, because I assumed that because of COVID, like that position of the theater ramped up because who knows who's showing up, right?
True, but then again, also theater was pulled back a lot too because
That's
people
right.
were just not attending.
That's right.
We had to shut
That's
things
right.
down.
Fascinating. Okay, listen, I got so many more questions.
Oh,
but
good.
Tanner hit me with his phone. That means he's ready for his segment called the Mac City Morning Show. He's going to ask you a bunch
It's not called that.
Or sorry, the Mac City Minute. So we're on the Mac City Morning Show. Thank you. The Mac City Minute. But before we jump into that, we got to throw to an ad from Carrie from Patchouli Rose. Carrie,
Thanks, Gary.
take it away.
Hi, it's Carrie with Patchouli Rose Herbal Apothecary. I know our summer is coming quickly to an end. And during the summer, we always think of applying our sunscreen, but sunscreen is a product that we should be using every day of the year to protect our skin against harmful UVA and UVB rays, also against premature aging. I have a product called Dandelion Harvest, which is moisturizing, anti-inflammatory, and is great for anti-aging. You can use this every day of the year, and it's very moisturizing. If you want to check this product and any of my other products out, please go to patchoulirose.com.
And we are back. Thank you, Carrie from Patchouli Rose. Tanner, hit him up with the Mac City Minute, please.
Absolutely. Question number 1 for you today.
All right.
What is one play you hope to one day take part in?
Take part in.
Yeah, any role.
Oh, well, I'd love to do a production of Sweeney Todd sometime.
Question number 2. What has been your most memorable moment you've been a part of while doing a play?
I'm just, that's a big question. Sorry.
No, that's all right. You can take as much time as you want. Tanner hits him with those gems.
Most memorable moment being involved in a play?
Yes, sir. There's no time limit on the Mac City Minute, by the way. So
Because I've got I've directed over 100 plays and I've acted in half as many.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to answer.
You don't have to. You can say pass.
Pass. Oh, I didn't know you could say pass.
There you go.
that is an answer.
That's right.
What is one actor or actress you find the most entertaining to watch?
On stage, Colin Fiore is great.
Question number 4. What is your favorite way to celebrate a wrap of a good show?
Quietly.
And your final question. If you could watch any play from any time, what would it be?
I would love to see an original version of Major Barbara by George Bernard Shaw.
And those have been your 5 questions.
Go. So, how did you get into the arts?
Again, exposure as a youngster, I think. My parents were involved on the periphery of the Alberta culture scene for many years. So I got taken out to a lot of different cultural experiences along the way and
Right.
exposed to that way. My mother was involved in local community theater in Edmonton by sewing costumes for productions. This is prior to the Citadel, prior to professional theater in
Right.
Edmonton at the time. So I got
Okay.
dragged around at the age of 2
Yeah.
backstage and exposed that way, I think. Got an interest through drama in junior high, high school. I didn't take it as a class in high school. I took it in university later on.
Yeah.
Got involved with the local small theater called Theater Network,
Yeah.
and began working with them as a volunteer basis, and then eventually as a coordinator there.
Okay. Very cool. Now, you mentioned I have to assume, have acted in the past.
Yes.
And you still act.
Yeah.
But you direct as well.
Yes.
So, I'm making assumptions, and you're going to correct me if I'm right or wrong, but I have to assume you started acting first, then you saw it, and then you built a skill set to say, I think I can direct. Is that normally the progression? Or did you just say, boom, I'm directing?
Really good question. Yeah, no, that's normally the way it goes. Is
Yeah.
that you get exposure to crafting stories, and then eventually you say, "Well, I want to help shape the look of them as well."
Right.
And then I sought more training, more background in that to see if I could find more of a skill set that I could then employ with other
Right.
co-creators or actors as well.
Yeah, cool. Now, once again, assumptions, I know nothing. So
Sure.
I feel that in the movie industry, more often than not, the directors are the directors. And you don't see a lot of directors like moving into acting as well. Or like once they get to the director spot, they're like, okay, this is kind of.
I think that's probably true. You don't
Yeah.
see directors who are actors. You see actors, or
Yes,
so you see directors who were actors.
that's right.
But not the other way around.
That's right.
But film,
Cameos.
Yeah, cameos. That's right. They still do cameos.
Oh, yeah, the Peter Jackson cameos.
Yeah.
On the, film is a director's medium. You've got to
Right.
realize that. Whatever
Yes.
goes on the screen,
Yeah.
as a director, I would have the choice in saying what it was, where it was shot from, how well it was done, how close up.
Right.
Stage is an actor's medium. They're in
Okay.
charge.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
once they're on stage, I can do nothing.
Right.
They have to work with the audience, and they are the ones who are the most important part.
Yeah.
So it's a little different responsibility,
Right.
and a little different thrill as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Uh,
Doubt.
It's a bit more. Film can be more egocentric. It can be more about the auteur, the director's vision that way, which we're trying to put out.
That's right.
Stage is a bit more collaborative.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we're all trying to work together to put this production on.
Together.
Stage crew, design team.
Yeah.
In our case, fabulous choreographers, musical directors,
Yeah.
without which the actor is feels unsupported. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you work with putting on those different hats in regards to like the director on this, but potentially next kick at the can, you'll be the actor. Like, how are you able to say, like, you know what, this is a completely different hat. I'm gonna let this individual like kind of mold the show, and I'm just this component now. Like, how does that switch? Because they're very different hats.
They are, but you've mentioned a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Is how do I give over my ego of my director and put on the actor and say, no, I'm here to service the play,
Yeah,
and you're here to help me do the best I can for it.
that's right.
It's nice because you bring in awareness, you bring in an understanding of stage picture, of nuance, and how large or how small you can be on stage, or how much responsibility you have as an actor.
Yeah,
So that's kind of neat.
yeah,
And you can help use your instincts to help drive that process along.
right.
But you don't want to get in the way that you become the director while you're on stage.
Right, right. So, do you primarily stick to like the Alberta scene for your craft, or do you venture out sometimes?
Good question. I'm primarily in Alberta. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
From north to south, so McMurray down to Fort Macleod.
Yeah.
Valley,
Nice.
across the province.
I think that's a thing Alberta's not well known enough about. Like growing up, my mom was hardcore about me being a part of. I'm just gonna call it the arts in regards to, and I used to hate it, and people on the show have heard it. Like she's a season ticket holder for Keanu College Theater, but like when we were little kids, she made us dress up for the play, so I had to wear my blue corduroy suit, which I was like, Mom, no, and she's like, let's go. So I really hated wearing the suit, although if I could get my hands on one now, I'd totally wear it proudly. But I did fall in love with like going to performances, going to musicals, going to ballets, going to all these things. And people who think of Fort McMurray don't think of Fort McMurray as, oh, there's an art scene here. But there is. And then when I went away to school, I went to Edmonton, and geez, man, I was blown away with all the stuff that's in Edmonton. But I feel Alberta gets a bum rap for like, you know what,
From
like
who?
there's like when I travel and talk to my cousins in different provinces, they're just
About the
like,
arts.
yeah, about the arts, and they're like, oh, in Ontario it's so much better, and in BC it's this, and I'm like, no, man, Alberta's got it on lockdown. And yeah,
Hasn't been my experience, but
Yeah.
obviously it's yours.
Yeah.
Going back to Tanner's earlier question, I can probably answer one of these things now. It was a Fort McMurray production
yeah,
that we directed here, and I was sitting in the audience after having directed the show,
yeah,
and a couple of high school kids were in the row ahead of me,
right, right,
and they were enwrapped.
yeah,
And they watched the show, and the intermission came up, and the one guy turned to the guy beside him and says, "This is so cool! It's like a live movie."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you could see that the brightness in his eyes and his
Yeah.
spirit, that it had opened worlds to him.
Yeah, 100%,
That's a
man.
really cool
Yeah.
experience that you don't get in other forms. In the same.
No, you really don't.
It is I keep using the word collaborative, but as an audience, we come together
Yeah,
to be complicit in the telling of the story.
yeah,
The version of Anne of Green Gables you're going to see, again, unlike film, which shows you all the detail and gives you everything,
right,
we exercise the audience's imagination.
yeah,
They have to enter willingly into that world and say, okay, sure, I know where I am now. I'm on a red road going to Avonlea, or I'm in a farmhouse, or
right.
they have to suspend their disbelief and say, you know what, I believe what
I
you're
believe in
doing."
it. Yeah. So speaking of that, for like believing is somewhat visual as well.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the actors. What about the people behind the scenes? Like the people, like you said, costume
Yeah.
design, like your mother, or the people who are making the set to kind of like take you into that world. What's your relationship with them as a director?
Good question. Again, hopefully, in the early pre-production period, we had a good chance to sit down and talk about the story, the characters themselves, how we can support, again, whatever cast we find. So before we even do any of the casting calls,
Yeah.
to see if we can create a world and environment that the audience will enter into and will be able to understand our telling of the story along the way.
Yeah.
So the visual aspect is strongly important. Right
Yeah.
now, our lighting designer, who just happens to be our set designer as well, is working, setting the lighting levels and choosing the look to play upon the retina of the audience to see how we can heighten that action or how we can find a mood to establish, to support the scene that's being told at the time.
Yeah.
Our costumer, who's got great skills in that area, has pulled a series of period looks because the play is set in 1908.
That's right.
And so she had to go find not just the clothes that they wore, but what do they wear in this rural sort of half agrarian setting.
Yeah.
And then can she find a way to color a thematic texture to this?
Right.
And that's
right.
part to play on our set design, which is to be very colorful and very lively because, as you asked me beforehand, what's PEI?
That's right.
It's colors, the greens and the blues. And
Right.
the
Right.
yellows.
So when you come about a movie or television like this, you can have different back play. You can definitely move things around to say, oh, we're in a living limited to the backdrops that you have. Do you come in with like picture casts of potentially like being in PEI or maybe watching a production before team and say, okay, like this is kind of what I'm thinking? Do they come in with collaboration process start from like the visual aspect?
Yeah, very often. Our own images we draw upon, and they may or may not be the area that it's established in, because sometimes you choose style ways of looking at it.
Right.
Because the themes of the play are much more important.
Yeah,
Or I love talking to designers because I'll say, this is what I think the play is about. Turn it this way and then turn it that way. I'll go, oh my gosh, you're right, it's that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Challenge me to try and be creative and clever with my me to try and new things with an audience in a way that theater can do, that film cannot do.
Right.
Film has to show you everything, but on stage, I can let the audience do a lot of that work for us.
Yeah. Well, listen, my man. Tanner tapped his watch, so that
What?
means we're out of time. I know time flies,
Yeah.
but before we cut you loose, everybody gets a shameless shout out or plug.
Cool.
So you have the mic, the camera, the lights. Have fun.
Great Keano Theatre is presenting Anne of Green Gables starting next Friday. That's the 21st of April at, I believe it's 7:30 p.m., maybe it's 8 p.m. Check the Keano website for tickets and information. It plays until the 29th, so you have a limited window of time there. Again, big shout out to my very supportive, very generous cast and creative team and support team there as well. They do some really good work in Keano. You should be very proud of your local theater company here. They bring in some great, strong professionals to work with the local community to enrich the cultural life of this town. So, thumbs up to them.
There we go. Great shout out. Well, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, the rest of the world. That's been another episode of the Mac City Morning Show. From the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for tuning in. It means the world to me. Big shout out to our title sponsor, Norel Toyota, as well as Carrie from Patchouli Rose. Thank you both for your ongoing support. I hope everybody at home is having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.